Private equity firms are built on strategy and investment thesis, but enduring platforms are built on partnership. At the core of Blueprint Equity is the partnership between Sheldon Lewis and Bobby Ocampo. In this PE Forum interview, we will discuss the origin of this partnership, decision-making and strategic tensions, and what it takes to scale a firm without losing cohesion. Beyond performance, this conversation explores something deeper, how a long-term partnership evolves and why ultimately it defines the trajectory of the firm itself. Bobby, thank you for joining us. Sheldon, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So, I'm very happy because I've been trying to bring in two founders together because every time we talk to LPs, they tell us it's the partnership, it's how they work together. And so I want to start by discussing the origin of this partnership. What convinced both of you that it was the right partner and not just to go and invest alongside? We'll go by alphabetical order. Bobby, if you wouldn't mind starting.
Yeah, I think Sheldon, you could agree or not. It was organic. We met when we were doing iBanking together in 2008, and as most people do after banking, you end up going to venture capital, private equity, corporate development, and we went off to different firms and but stayed in touch and really were honing in on investing the ways we wanted to. And when the time came, we had been talking about it for years, and it was largely organic. There was no set time, and when we were gonna do it or how we were gonna do it. But I think over the years we just figured out here's a strategy we wanted to run, and when the timing worked out for both of us, that's when we hit go.
Sheldon?
Yep. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I think we'd known each other before we started the fund. We'd known each other, been friends for 10 years, and talked, often, and always bounced ideas off each other. And it seemed like we were honing in on the same gap in the market and the same investment thesis. And so, it kind of worked out where both of us were, moving on from either a previous firm or thinking about moving on, and I just had an exit. And so, I think we both knew this, like I said, there was just a big gap in opportunity. We've been fortunate to work together before and know that we worked well together. And so like Bobby said, it was pretty organic.
And to continue on this point of working together, what made you confident that you could, build a firm as partners? When you talk to LPs or other people in the investment, they tell you a private equity firm is a long-term marriage. So what made you confident that you could go through it?
Yeah, well, actually, it lasts longer than most marriages, as sad as that is. Yeah, I don't know. Bobby might have been about to say it. I don't. I think we were still learning a lot, and so it's not. We were fortunately at a place in both of our lives and careers where we could take the risk, and we felt like we both had the skills, the knowledge set, the relationships to go out and plant our own flag. And so, the stars kind of aligned in that way, where, like I said, we'd known each other, we liked each other, personally and professionally, and had worked together well. And so, when you hone in on the same gap, the same thesis, it was kind of a recipe for success to start.
Yeah, I don't think I think we'd be lying if we told you that we knew it was going to work out and we knew exactly what we were doing. I mean, there were a lot of surprises. There still are every day as we're running the fund. But I think looking back on it, Sheldon, I don't know if you agree. One, the timing was good, where it was a point in our lives when we could take a chance. I think secondly, you didn't really realize the importance of it, but I think we're both entrepreneurial. And I think that part's really important too. And yeah, and the third thing is that we knew each other for a while. We're kind of working together a little bit here and there, and I think that also helped. But I think the first two things were like the most important, and that you just have to. There's some great investors who, it's really hard to plant your own flag, and they just don't. And you really have to be able to ride the ups and the downs. I think that I think it's probably the most important thing as you're starting a fund.
And when you divided the responsibilities, did you go through, what could go wrong, how things should be put forward? And you said it, Bobby, but is there still things what surprises you when you work together still today?
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much surprised me that like what Sheldon and I are working together on things. It's more running a business here, and there's lots of surprise. Like we're before it was just us two, then it became 3 or 4 people, and now it's like 20, 25 people. And putting aside what we're doing, running a fund, you're running a business really on the side. But that side is actually like really important now. Like Sheldon and I are not doing all the investing and then doing the people management, the LP relations, the portfolio management. So I think, like Sheldon, I don't know if you agree that there's a lot of unexpected that pops up when you're running a business, absent what the kind of business we're in.
Mhm. Yeah. No, it's part of the beauty of of what we do is every day is different. There's always something going on, whether it's, Blueprint internal, because we are running a business and we were entrepreneurs in that sense, or with the portfolio, because, when you have 24 investments, there's always something going on that needs your time and attention. So, yeah, it's, I don't think though, from a responsibility standpoint, it's not like from day one we really said like, you're going to do this and you're going to do, and I'm going to do this. It just kind of naturally went, we went towards what we liked and what we were good at. And it was actually, like, looking back, really quite amazing that it just, naturally flowed.
And for you, there was while you were building the firm and establishing it, what was the toughest part? Was it the fundraising, finding the first deal, or you faced another setback? And did it test this partnership and you came out stronger after that?
Yeah, I mean, Bobby would agree, like, fundraising our first fund was definitely harder than we had thought. We, we'd done some, like, smaller deals on the side before, and we had a lot of great connections and we had a good track record. And so we figured, it would be relatively easy. But it certainly was not. Raising a fund one is harder than, than anybody will tell you. And so, yeah, it was it took us, what, Bobby, how long did it take us? Like,
18 months, right? Almost
yeah,
18, like no, maybe like 15 months, I think, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
we didn't hit our goal ultimately on fund one. But it was a good enough start where we said, hey, we can go kind of prove ourselves, because that's what it comes down to. Like, these investors, the old adage, like, you don't get fired for buying IBM. It's kind of the same thing in the fund industry, for these institutional investors. Like, well, even if my upside is better, which, statistically it is, investing in a fund one, two, three, um, who knows if this partnership's going to work? Who knows if, these guys really know what they're doing on their own? And so, our fund one investors, who we have a lot of respect for, that still took a risk on us. And it's just a lot harder to do, to raise money in a blind pool, for that fund one. So that was hard, right? But, again, I think we were both fortunate to still really believe in the thesis, the gap, in the market, and also to have the ability to, be at a point in our life where we could take the risk and, really not need the capital.
Bobby, for you, you feel that the fundraising also was the toughest part?
Oh, 100%. Everything else was paled in comparison. And then now, I mean, I think Sheldon knows, like, the same. I mean, your fundraising is directly correlated with your performance, right? I mean, and I mean, if or and vice versa, like if our performance is great, the fundraise is very easy, and that's what we strive to do. Like we don't, nothing else matters when GPs ask us about, well, how do you fundraise so quickly? How do you do it? Like, I have no secret. Like we're not smarter than everyone here. In fact, there's a lot of private GPs that are smarter than we are, but you know, we lead with performance, and I think with that, everything else takes care of itself.
Mhm.
And so you felt this difference moving from the first fund to the subsequent ones?
Oh my God, it was night and day, right, Sheldon? I mean,
Yeah,
we closed our second fund in what, 40-ish days.
42, I think, 42
42.
days.
Wow.
We closed our third fund in 12 days, and hopefully the next one will be faster.
Yeah.
So you're going for world record, basically. So
Yeah, I want next one. We want 1 day or 0 days, maybe. Everyone, we just
Yeah.
send a text out and it's all done. Yeah,
that's
but
amazing.
yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
We, our,
so
lo-
going, sorry, please, Sheldon, go ahead.
no, our lawyers said we need to at least give a week, uh, but yeah, you know, we were definitely fortunate over the last two funds, and like Bobby said, the performance kind of was the directly correlated item.
So speaking about the performance is about investing. And so when you look at deals, are there a deal, for example, that you've completely disagreed on between each other, and how did you resolve that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of deals that we've disagreed on, but in my opinion, that's what makes it solid partnership. Like you need someone to play devil's advocate and to spot your blind spots. So you know, the biggest thing, like you just need to be. It's kind of like you said, it's like a marriage. You need to be good at communicating, and not take things personal. I think that's the number one thing. I think a lot of people get hung up on, you know, ego or get their feelings hurt, and that, you know, if a partner is disagreeing with the other one, and so again, it goes back to like, is that partner that's disagreeing, or they communicating in a good fashion why they disagree with the deal, and are you the person who's getting disagreed with? Are you taking it personally? And I think we've done a really good job of communicating and not taking things personally.
yeah. No, I'd agree. And ultimately, you know, our how we decide on an investment, it has to be unanimous, right? So if one of us doesn't really doesn't want to do it, we're not going to do it, you know. And but there's certainly ones where Sheldon has been more gun shy than me, and I've been more gun shy than Sheldon. But ultimately, this is what makes it work. You can't have everyone just be 100% gung ho on everything. I think usually that, in fact, I would say a few. I bet you in all of in private equity, those ones where everyone just say, "Hey, we all got to do it." They probably don't work out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so does the same apply to the portfolio construction, or does it come just naturally as well?
I think it comes pretty naturally. You know, we certainly look out for things like, hey, we've made a couple investments in this sector. Let's, you know, make sure we're not overweighted. But you know, that's identified pretty early. Like if we've invested in, I'm just making something up, but 3 cybersecurity companies, and the next deal comes up that's a cybersecurity company, and we're, you know, 8 deals into the fund, we're like, whoa, we gotta slow down on the cyber sector for a little bit and make sure we're diversified.
Do you agree, Bobby?
Yep, 100%, 100%.
From what I read about you two, I guess Bobby's the better skier. It's important because we're based in Switzerland, so I guess that this is what I kind of understood.
There's tension there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But if you take, you know, the roles that you play, do you think that, you know, there's I would say, look to challenge each other every time and to be the devil's advocate when one of you is completely convinced, to help them, let's say, mature the thought or make the right decision?
Yeah, I don't know, Sheldon. I don't know if like, certainly not every investment is like that, where one person is so positive, the other is so negative. In fact, Sheldon, I think because we run these down and it's such a small team here, I think we run it down very soon if, hey, it's just a non-starter for someone, right, Sheldon? So I think if it goes far enough along, I think it's more just say, hey, at the final hour, just okay, here are the 2 or 3 yellow and red flags, and do we want to roll with it or with that risk or not? I think it's really ultimately what it comes down to if it gets to that finish line.
Yep. Yep. I totally agree. I mean, you were, as you can imagine, extremely transparent. So it's not like, we're going to identify the risks right out the gate. And then part of, the evolution of, diligence, or even before a term sheet is figuring out, of those risks, can you get comfortable? Do the pros outweigh the cons? Can you, get to can you underwrite a deal that for us, we underwrite to 4x plus on every deal. So like, can we reasonably get there? And we always like an upside of 10x plus. And so everything, because our parameters are so defined, and we're so transparent with each other and with, with everybody that works with us, it's usually not a huge contested battle.
Right.
It's kind of more like,
Right.
hey, let's really think through these cons and figure out if it's worth it or not.
Yeah, I think Sheldon hit it there where because we're not a venture firm and where a lot of it's very nebulous, it's a lot of the founder in the market. We look for the same 4 or 5 core metrics with every company. And then after that, it becomes more of a qualitative market and founder comfort or not, right, Sheldon? Like so if a company doesn't hit those 5 screens, right, we're not going to look at it ever. And so it's really just about the other things, the intangibles, right? And that's what's up for debate, and that's more art than science.
And you mentioned the investment thesis, and that that brought you with the same vision. Tell us, what it was at that time, and has it evolved since then? And how do you, keep up with the changes, and how do you make sure that you're aligned with what is happening on the market?
Yeah, I'll start. The thesis, and I think this is one thing our investors really appreciate about us, is it hasn't changed. Like if you looked at our fundraising deck from 2018, it's, of course we've improved a couple of the fonts and updated a few things, but it's very, very similar. Like we've always looked for businesses, B2B, vertical SaaS, operating systems, doing 1 to 7 in ARR, growing north of 75% year over year, bootstrapped or capital light, where we can, lead that first institutional round, hopefully, get 20 to 40% ownership, get really involved. We always take a board seat, and then of course you go down the ladder for the metrics that really matter to us, like gross retention, net retention, logo retention, CAC to LTV, magic number, burn multiple. We're highly focused on making sure that these businesses don't run out of money in our investment hold period. Doesn't mean we don't raise more capital, but at least gives us the opportunity to choose our own destiny. So that thesis truly has not changed at all. And while we've had the opportunity to, with this last fund, we had over, well over $1 billion, and I think it was like 1.2 billion in demand. We could have easily, raised a much larger fund. But I think one of the things that our investors really appreciated was that we chose to stay in our zone, stay focused on what we've proven we're good at. And and so that's that. I'll let Bobby take, like, is anything changing, now, because the world, is changing.
Yeah, I certainly, with everything that's been going on with AI, we I think really hard about our go forward execution and investment plan here. But I think that's it. I mean, if you look at the kind of company we're looking at, and it's certain sectors that we're I think are going to do better in the age of AI versus others, right? So I think we're really highly focused on that. we're highly focused on building our own internal value creation team, which we've started to in Fund 2, and now we're really planning to triple down on that in Fund 3. But yeah, other than that, like the profile of company's unchanged, check size the same. And now with a bigger fund, we're able to double and triple down on the winner, whereas before we didn't. That I think is the only real difference.
And so when you do your investments, are you, I mean, as you mentioned, your firm is scaling, it's growing. Do you both keep relationship with the original founders, and how does that dynamic work?
We used to, for the first few deals, it was kind of like we pushed for 2 board seats so we could both be involved. Obviously, as the portfolio has grown to, now 24 investments, that's not possible. So now it's, a lot of times we'll still, if there's like a extended diligence meeting before we put in a term sheet, both of us will attend that if we can, but now it is a little bit more separate than it was for the first 4 or 5 deals.
It's really been about we've promoted a lot within, and it's empowering the people who started with us, who are now have been trained so well for 6, 7, 8 years that they know exactly what we're looking for, and it's really supporting them as much as it is us investing, right? Because it doesn't work as our fund is like 5 times as big as our Fund 1, Sheldon, right? Or Fund 3, if it's just the Bobby and Sheldon show. But luckily, we have a great team here. They've been trained really well with our blueprint religion, and now it's just, hey, like, okay, like we're here to support, but not be in a leadership position of every investment, because it won't scale very well.
And was it difficult to go through this transition and to sort of pass the baton and tell somebody else to start gaining responsibility? It's the way to scale, obviously, but was it a difficult step towards being more institutionalized?
I think the thing that we had on our side was we've had really strong employee retention, thankfully, and so the people, our VPs, our principals that are leading deals and taking board seats now have been with us for a very long time. Our principal, one of our principals, has been with us since 6 months into since 2018, right? And then another one has been with us for 5.5 years. The other one's been with us for like almost 4 years. So before, it's not like they were brand new people coming into the company and you just started throwing board seats at them. Like they've been working with us for a long period of time. So we had the utmost confidence in their ability to find deals and be great board members.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty easy. They've just been so well trained. They know exactly what we're looking for. And ultimately too, like Sheldon and I are still watching and helping and supporting them. So I don't think there's one investment we've made, Sheldon, where our fingers are still not on the wheel, right?
Yep.
I want to jump back to something, because the name of your firm, Blueprint. Could you tell us more about it? What who thought about it, and is there a significance behind it? Because it's a bit different than the usual private equity names that we're using.
Yeah, Tree Rock Capital, something like that.
Exactly.
That's all Bobby. Bobby gets the credit, so I'll let you tell.
No, I mean, we had another name, and it ultimately didn't, like, it had some not so great connotations with it. So we had it for like a month or 2, Sheldon, right?
Yeah.
And then
share it, or you'd rather not?
Yeah, Sheldon.
It was we were trying to do something that had to do with like the ocean, because we're in San Diego, and surfing maybe. So it was called lineup equity. Because that's what, when you get in the wave, to wait in line to catch the wave, it's called the lineup. But then there's prison lineup and talk to me, and I don't know. It just didn't. after we worked with, we had business cards printed out, a website and everything. And I think Bobby and I were both just like, there's got to be something better. And then Bobby, I'll let you tell the story, but he just called me one day and said, I got it. Like, I think he called me at like 7:30 or 7 in the morning. But yeah,
it was just, it just came to me, right? I'm like, you know what? Like this sounds kind of neat. I like, we like the color blue, and unfortunately, blueprint.com, I think and I inquired about the URL. I think they wanted $8 million for it. And we're like, okay, no, we can't be Blueprint, just Blueprint. So it's like Blueprint Equity. And it is different, like there's always capital or ventures or partners. So we like equity. So the two together, it was unique, and that was it.
And is it a blueprint for how you grow the firm, a blueprint for the firm you invest in, or for all of the above?
I would say the way we were originally thinking about it, or Bobby, when he first told me, it's like, Blueprint is a foundation for building something, right? And then ultimately, that's what we're trying to do with all of our portfolio companies. They've gotten to, a great point. They're obviously already very interesting businesses. They're growing fast. They're in interesting markets. They're strong entrepreneurs. But like it is, so they have the, now it's about like really institutionalizing that foundation to make, to build that big, in this case, not building, but company. And so, yeah, that's kind of, that was the thought process behind it.
Yeah.
You said that you were oversubscribed with like 1.2 billion, if I'm not mistaken, and you chose to keep the fund at a smaller size. Was this a way to I'd say save or continue the alignment between you and between your LPs?
I think it had. I don't think it was. I think it had more to do with just like we know we can continue to generate premium, like top 5% returns in this space, and what we've seen with other investors that have moved up market too quickly is that the returns suffer, and so we have our own money in the fund. We keep investing more money into the fund. We want those returns to be, top tier, and we want, fundraisings to be quick. And so that was really the main driver behind it, right, Bobby?
That's right. That's it. And like we know that our strategy doesn't lend it, like raising a multi-billion-dollar fund doesn't fit for our strategy, not currently. If maybe one day if we change or evolve or have more products, maybe, but to do what we do, it's overkill to raise a large fund. But I would probably, I don't know if you'd agree, Sheldon, but I bet you pretty much every GP in the world would have done the opposite of what we did and maxed out the fund and just now have a very cushy lifestyle and generate decent to mediocre returns and be fine with that. Like that's not of interest to us.
Yep, totally agree.
And if we compare the transition, you mentioned the difficulty to convince and to fundraise for the first time during your fund one. What would you say the challenges are for the fund two and that you face fund two and fund three, if any?
I think, yeah, go ahead, Sheldon.
Well,
we didn't have any, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that's great.
It sounds bad, but no. I mean, just honestly, the hardest part was picking. There's so many great LPs that we wanted to work with that we couldn't, just because our earlier fund two or fund one LPs wanted X amount, and so there's only Y amount left, and you want to be respectful to those early investors who believed in you, but you also want to bring on new LPs that you formed a relationship with. So that to me was the hardest part for sure.
Yeah, I think for if you're not it's not that we're special, but we were able to generate significant returns in before we even were fundraising. So I think that's what it is, right? Like how many GPs are producing DPI in this day and age? And so if we weren't, then what I would say to other GPs who are trying to raise a fund 2 or fund 3 that the operating performance of your company just has to be really strong. And if it is strong, absent markups or distributions, you're going to be able to raise a fund. But if not, if there's no DPI and the performance is mediocre with the companies, well, like raising a next fund and the fund assets gonna be like it's going to take a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of DPI, do you feel that there is indeed a bottleneck in, I won't say the blueprint, but in the playbook for PE firms in terms of exit? And there's a lot of mention about zombie companies today. How do you perceive this entire environment when it comes to your firm?
Here you go ahead, Bobby.
I mean, there's a lot of unfortunately, I think that you're seeing right now in the market, capital, even in companies and funds, is being concentrated in very few companies and very few funds, right? And so what does that mean? You're anointed a company that is growing so fast, so big, Anthropic, OpenAI, or you're a fund that is now like representing the index of venture, Thrive and Recent. So what else is there? Who's left? And I think our contention is it's very much the specialists, right? Like you are just good at this one thing, and that's it. And you generate alpha, real alpha there. Everything else is going away or will go away. And what I call it, I don't know if Sheldon will call like the sort of middle earth of companies and GPs. And the problem is that you have a lot of GPs who think they're a specialist or are aspiring to be a mega fund. And that part of the world, what we found is that the brand doesn't matter anymore. And you're either one or the other, and you're either producing or you're just a big mega fund, been anointed mega fund, or you're not, or you're neither of them. And though that part of the world, I think, is a very tough place to be operating. So we very much aspire to be the latter. Like we are a specialist fund. We don't want to be a $15-20 billion fund like Andrew said. They're great, but that's not what we do, and we know who we are. And just sticking to what our knitting is where we try to make our hay.
Completely agree. Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it better.
Do you think that the specialist funds such as yourself looks more like craftsmanship versus being institutionalized and growing? Would you?
What do you think, Sheldon? You can answer. Yeah.
I think you can still grow. I think you just have to, it's almost like not growth at all costs. It's like you can compare it to a early stage company. Like, are you just gonna try to raise as much money as possible and go for play the AUM game and go for just notoriety, huge numbers, or are you going to be thoughtful, a little bit more thoughtful, and disciplined, I would say. For us, again, like we know we can generate the top ventile returns like we've done with Fund 1 and Fund 2 in our space right now. So will we grow in the future? Yes. I don't know how much. It kind of depends on if we decide to I'd say productize, but we're not changing our specialty. But yeah, if we do grow, it's going to continue to be very, very thoughtful, and we're not going to do, we're not going to do it for growth's sake or for egos or because a competitive fund raised X amount. We're going to do it because we think we can generate, 4 or 5x net returns for our investors doing it.
Right. I'd see, as Sheldon said, like if we see an opportunity and our returns are as good, if not better, as we grow, great. We deserve the right to raise a bigger and bigger fund. But it's like Sheldon said, it's not going to be just because we have so much demand we can raise it. I think that's where funds get in trouble, and you see it like that. How these funds, like very few funds, are able to generate actually really decent returns, and we don't want to fall victim to that trap.
If you look at the funds that are, the mega funds, and then you can move on to also asset manager, we're looking at a consistent consolidation. And if we look at the software part, B2B, I mean, every time you read something is that whether it's Anthropic or the other AI firms, that they will take over all software, and that they're putting an image of like complete doom and gloom for any software company. Do you see that being a reality, or how do you perceive this for your portfolio companies and also for you as a firm as you grow?
Sheldon, do you mind if I hit on it first?
Yeah.
So there's absolutely truth to like the cost of creating software is, and the speed is gotten so cheap and so fast, right? It's absolutely true. But I think like most people forget that what makes a software business actually is a software. It's I have to market and sell it. I have to implement it. I have to support it. I have to integrate with other pieces of software. If something goes like I might have to accept payments, right? It's all these things, right? Where this final couple miles of a software company are what make the software company. It's not about me, like Sheldon, you can disagree. Like, are we ever going to vibe code our way to move all of our technology to something internal? Maybe at some point, but you have to trust it. And I think ultimately that is what, like, I don't know if I will ever be able to trust it 100% to something that could just be coupled up in a day. Because if it goes wrong, it's on me. If it goes wrong if I'm Accenture and I got an 8-figure contract with Salesforce and something goes off of the CRM, like I know I can trust them and they're going to be on it. And so I think that's like the most important piece, is that I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, maybe someday. But I think that last mile, I'm not sure when that's ever going to be solved for. And I think that the market's over-rotated to now everyone can trust AI and the code I can build. I can do everything that all the software we buy here at Blueprint, and it can be all on me. I'm a little more skeptical about that.
Interesting.
Yeah. We really look at AI as a accelerator, not a detractor, especially considering where we play, as like we're investing in these vertical specific software solutions that more often than not are the core operating system. And so, we look at AI as, if we can make that AI interchangeable, plug in, which our companies have successfully been doing, and we've been, pushing for, it's going to be an accelerator, and it has been so far. So I think we're very bought into AI, but I think you can use AI as a vertical operating system, where the clients, the space, the industry, like use everything AI is giving you. You don't have to create the AI yourself these days. And I think it's going to be a huge tailwind for us and for other folks in our industry that focus on the right types of investments.
And within your portfolio companies, do you have any come up to you telling like, oh, I see AI and this particular development being a threat more or being an opportunity more? How does the needle move?
I think it's an opportunity more, but it's a threat if you're not at the forefront of what's going on right now. If any of our companies if they fall behind even for an instant, I think it's a big problem. But if we're the ones to capture it, because I think, like Sheldon said, almost all of our companies are the system of record or the core workflow. They're in such a prime position. I mean, they have the distribution, they have the trust, and now they have the full end-to-end workflow. If we're capturing the AI wave too, the sky's the limit. But we can't fall behind there.
Mhm.
We're reaching the end of this interview. I had a question about complementarity, and I think that this interview spoke for itself. So I'm going to just skip it because we see the complementarity and how the partnership works well. So it's fantastic. It was a good thing to see straightforward. And I want to conclude by asking you, 10 years from now, where do you see, what would you consider a success for Blueprint Equity and as well for your partnership?
Great question. Sheldon, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, for Blueprint Equity, it's continuing to deliver, top tier results. Like we don't, Bobby and I joke like on our tombstone, we don't want, AUM. We want our DPI and our actual returns. And so, if we're still looked at, like the, like the benchmark for our industry, I think both of us would feel like that's really successful. For us personally, I'd say we hang out outside of work, so as long as we're still going on golf trips and enjoying each other's company, I would say that's still a very successful personal partnership too.
100% agree. It's just to be the standard in the space we're in, and yeah, hopefully, and then continue to empower our people. I think that's really it. Like Sheldon and I are not going to be doing this for 50 years, right? So at some point in X amount of time, like we got to make sure that this stays as a franchise and it doesn't end.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Personally, I got to beat Bobby at golf too.
Yeah.
So
I'm definitely the worst skier, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we know because I wasn't sure which was which. Okay,
yeah.
So now we know. Bobby, Sheldon, thank you so much for your time and all these insights. It was a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks
really
so much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.